following on from that, we have some updates for a few video game adaptations. What do we have first?
Mass Effect. The details about Mass Effect are going to be given out at the San Diego Comic-Con. And this is a movie a lot of people are waiting for. It's obviously a very heavily story-based game. It's a popular game on new generation consoles. And for those who aren't familiar with it, the plot follows Commander Shepard, who is leading a team against an alien invasion. And these aliens invade the galaxy every 50,000 years, wiping out all organic life. And we're looking forward to these details. They're going to be on a panel. The panel will have BioWare's Casey Hudson, and BioWare is obviously the developer for the game. Also, Prosovic will be there. So hopefully it'll be very informative. We get some good details.
Do you know what that name sounds like?
What?
Do you remember the... this is a really, really, really poor reference. But do you remember Dragon Ball Z?
Yes.
Wasn't there like there were these two villains who got like superpowers by Margin?
Those two random fighters.
Two Croatian fighters.
One of them one of them must have been something like Prosovic.
Could this guy be him?
Maybe he'd be dressed up as him. It is a Comic-Con.
It is Comic-Con. It would fit quite nicely.
But like Mass Effect is one of those games that has a very strong story. So what are we expecting from it?
I think this could be... I know I say this every time, almost like a Only Fools and Horses reference. This time next year, Rodney, we'll have a great comic book, a great video game movie. But this one, it's got a great depth to the story. It's very grand, and it plays out on a huge stage. And you've got all these different races and this intergalactic body. So you've got a lot to play with. So it has a lot of potential. Video game movies, they have history. They're almost like they're like the bastard child of the entertainment industry. Kind of out of a union of Hollywood and the video game industry, who don't realize what they're doing. They just get caught up. They get caught up in emotions with the money, and then have a night of passion, and they've got a new product created, and then they realize, oh shit, we didn't want this, and the fans are like, we didn't want this either, and that's why. and what is this? And no one loves it. Wow, the video game movie tries so damn hard. It's a bastard child. The entertainment
industry.
It's the unloved bastard child of the entertainment industry.
And it's the younger brother of comic book movies, and people are loving them nowadays. It's in the shadows.
Exactly. Comic book movies trying to have a talk with video game ones. Say, hey, listen, don't worry. One day it happened to me too, but when you grow up, you'll see what I mean. And one day it'll happen for you. And I think maybe this may be one of them. It's like, as you said, it's got a great story. And I can honestly say, in my experience, I have not played the video game. However, I did manage to watch a friend play the video game, and no, I do not have a pathetic social life.
Because that's what it sounds like.
Because that's what it sounds like. So I'm just gonna... It wasn't. I had options.
So you watched someone play the game, and you're more than willing to watch someone show the movie.
I did. You know what? Yes, yes. And I asked them to do it, and it was great because it's got a lot of dialogue in there. That's one of the big components of the game. I'm not just watching someone run around.
Of course, yeah. That's the main appeal for these kinds of games.
Exactly. I'm actually watching the story play out. Obviously, I didn't watch the whole thing because it's a bloody long game, but I saw a good amount of it, and I was intrigued. And it does sound like an intriguing plot with really great characters, but obviously. There's always a problem with this when you have the adaptation, no matter how good the source material is.
Yeah.
Often, the creative process involved in making a film, they don't bring about the depth of the characters or the plot. Same thing happened in comic book movies, obviously. Yeah. They make their own source, but I am looking forward to this.
Yeah, everyone hopes that it stays true to the original and as close to what they loved as possible. But there has to be these compromises and these changes. But hopefully Mass Effect survives the whole process.
And that's a nice segue to the next update for Uncharted adaptation. Which has caused quite a bit of furore amongst fans. David O. Russell, who's the director of The Fighter, and was nominated for an Oscar. A fantastic film, fantastic director. He's also someone who directed Three Kings, which is one of my all-time favourite films. Absolute classic film. So, he was attached to direct the film, which initially brought, a lot of excitement. A director of such caliber was going to be on to direct a video game adaptation, but then soon details started to come out about what his vision was to film. One of them was that he wanted to add a family dynamic to the story, which will act as, I suppose, a shadowy family unit that polices the world of antiques. And you had the likes of Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro in line to play those roles as the uncle and father respectively. Now, as great as those actors are,
would have been a great cast.
It would have been a great cast. There's no doubt about that. But this pissed off a lot of fans, including myself.
Yeah, I can imagine.
For the same reason why we were discussing about Mass Effect and video game adaptations, where people tend to not appreciate the depth of the story already there or the characters, and they feel the need to add this whole new element just to make it interesting. Exactly. And that's exactly what this family dynamic felt like. It felt like David Russell was ignoring what was already there in the source. Something that the game's been, held to such high regard for. Its story and its depth of characters, and its complex, no character was simply good or bad. There was a lot of complex characteristics to them, and it felt like he was ignoring that, and he was simply including this because he just enjoyed that part of a dynamic. He enjoyed that part in the fighter with this family element, and he felt like he wanted to incorporate that again.
A lot to play a part in.
Exactly, yeah. It's like it's just this complete disrespect to what's already there. And I think that's what a lot of the frustration fans had. But it sounds like that with his departure, that story may be out.
Now we know that Russell's on the way out, and Neil Berger seems to have landed the job. He impressed Sony by delivering his vision of what the movie should be, and it seemed to stick a lot closer from what we heard to what the game showed about the story. And that's what fans wanted to see. And obviously Sony responded to this, and he's been picked up right away.
So yeah, it looks like that plot element will probably be ditched now. And what makes this more interesting is the fact that Neil Berger recently directed Limitless, a film that starred Bradley Cooper.
Big film, yeah.
And Robert De Niro. Now, Bradley Cooper is become quite a fan favourite because he's very good at playing a witty, charming, kind of a two-faced...
Exactly, he's got the charisma that you're looking for.
I'm like, does this sound like any other character that we might be talking about right now? Perhaps maybe Nathan Drake. I mean, like, he was someone who was in contention for that role. But at the moment, obviously, Mark Wahlberg's been attached for that role with David Russell, who came on board. And obviously, those two quite often come as a set. Like
exactly,
they did Three Kings together, and they did The Fighter together, so there was quite a bit of relationship. So Mark Wahlberg was attached for that. But obviously, there was a lot of furore around that as well. The other decision that David Russell made, having Mark Wahlberg play Nathan Drake.
So yeah, I think it was good to have a Russell move because he seemed to want to stick to whatever he was comfortable with, his format,
exactly, yeah.
Family dynamic. Let's bring Mark Wahlberg in. Let's slap it out as another one of my films. Yeah. And when you're doing an adaptation of a of a game franchise that people love, you can't stick to what you want to do. You have to see what the fans want, and you have to see what this world offers. And he did go off talking about how he wanted people to be immersed in the world, but it was a world he was making, and that's not what we were signing up for.
No,
and obviously Sony saw that.
There has to be a fine balance. You got to have some, creative control over, because some things probably don't transfer well to the silver screen. But he never really identified what he thought was great about the game. He just talked about adding things to it, which felt like he had missed the point or missed the potential that the game had, and it could have just become a generic, run of the mill action adventure movie. But then also him picking Mark Wahlberg because they have a relationship. Now, Mark Wahlberg is a fantastic character, but a jury's still out on whether he can play a character like Nathan Drake, a witty, charismatic, sarcastic, a bit of an anti-hero type. He's not that. He's more adept at playing silent, clean cut. Maybe a bit of a complex, but playing a silent guy. He excels at that. Playing silent,
strong and silent. That seems to be what he's suited for.
He's suited for that. Playing this loud or obnoxious character, just I don't know. But then again, he was loud and obnoxious in The Departed. But a lot of people maybe thought Nathan Fillion would be right for the role, right?
Yeah, the fans definitely wanted Nathan Fillion, especially the way that the Nathan Drake character was based on a character Nathan Fillion has played, Mal from Firefly.
Yeah,
but that's a weak link as far as I'm concerned. You can't just pull out these actors because the characters were based on them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nathan Fillion is getting on a bit in years, and he's not really that well known. I mean, especially he's known amongst the sci-fi nerd community.
Yeah. But
this is gonna be mainstream, and it needs a mainstream actor behind it.
Quick disclaimer, just so we don't piss off the few fans that we have for our first podcast. We are big fans of Nathan Fillion.
Love him.
Absolutely love the guy. He's great on screen, great voice. Love him in the games and the sci-fi stuff. But I do have to agree that I don't think he'll be right for the role. And I think with Neil Berger coming on, I think this really does pave the way for perhaps Bradley Cooper being in contention.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask, what were you going to say? Bradley Cooper, Mark Wahlberg, or Nathan Fillion? What would you say?
I think I would have to go with Bradley Cooper. I
knew you'd say it.
He's new, he's fresh. Can't remember what I said. He's a good-looking guy. He's built,
and he definitely looks like an option with Neil Berger.
Definitely looks like an option, yeah. So who knows? Maybe we'll be seeing him on attached to the film, and I think we could definitely say it's the end of having Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci on as that family shadowy family.
Well, they might still be on, but that whole aspect of family might be dropped.
I suppose they could be, yeah. Well, we'll see. And finally, we have the announcement that a movie based on the popular video game Angry Birds is in the works.
Massive game.
Massive game, yeah, on the iPhone and Android, and very good casual game.
Well, the news is that Rovio, the company behind the game, have taken on board a former Marvel Studios chairman, David Maisel, as an advisor. And Maisel was responsible for securing capital so Marvel could start its own massive movie franchise with Iron Man and Hulk. And I'm pretty sure they want him to do a similar thing for them. I mean, they see themselves as the next Pixar. I think they've decided that the gaming on iPods and Apples is just the beginning, and they're going to go into the movie industry. But like Pixar kind of films with Angry Bird characters, which are characters we now are very familiar with, but you know, there's no real plot, there's no real story. They're just going to go anywhere with these films, right?
Well, I think it's interesting you referred to the birds as characters, because as someone who's played the game, I just saw them as things to fling at bricks.
Ammunition, right?
Ammunition, that's it. They're bullets. They're bullets with faces. That's all they are.
So is this like a slap in the face for people who want a gaming movie?
I think this is a shot in the face for the ammunition, if I could probably use that. But I think the ironic thing about this is I bet this would be the most successful video game adaptation ever, right? Like, we've just spent like a good portion of this podcast talking about the video game adaptation histories and two great titles in Mass Effect and Uncharted. We talked about the level of depth of the story and the characters and the plot and how it plays out as a Hollywood movie, but yet they won't be made properly, whereas you've got this
We'll hope against hope that it all comes out right, but
no, it probably won't. You've got something like this, which if it's setting itself up to be a Pixar, you could just it just pisses me off. It makes me sad to see how well it will work. You can,
you can just see it.
You can just see it. You can say, I will probably watch this. So you can see that the producers, they can go anywhere. The fact, I don't know, could you say that perhaps the lack of story and characters actually frees up?
I'd have to agree with that. The fact that it's a blank canvas and they've got characters, which you're debating whether they're characters or not.
Playerful sprites. Let's say that, right?
They've got images that we're familiar with, and they're going to chuck these images at us in a film. Yeah, people will line up to watch it.
Talking animals?
And it's impossible to disappoint us, to be honest. I don't think they can disappoint us. They give us a good quality film, and we've got nothing to compare it to except for, you know what, they do look like those characters.
Yeah, exactly.
They've done their job.
Exactly, that's true. We've got nothing to compare to. You're right. And you could just see talking. This was like Finding Nemo and, you know, Monsters versus whatever it was, Aliens. Okay, that was a rubbish word, but Monsters Inc. all that stuff. You know, they're talking cute little looking animals.
Exactly.
Will always do it. And to be fair, the images they have on Angry Birds and all that, they do look pretty fun.
It does look good.
I don't know how they'll go for it. Is it going to be like a massive epic battle where some birds are trying to feed their comrades or something, and they actually have a little homage to flinging themselves out there? Maybe they lose some friends. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it'll do pretty well. But it's sad to hear that the one game that's not actually a game, it's just a casual pastime, is the one that was set up, be the precedent.